Hello everyone, Oli here, and welcome to my review of The Highlanders, the fourth story of the fourth season of classic Doctor Who, starring Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor. The Highlanders is also the 31st story overall. It's 4 episodes long and it's written by Elwyn Jones and Jerry Davis, who is best known for co-creating The Cybermen with Kit Pedler. The Highlanders is the last pure historical story until Black Orchid, the fifth Doctor story, which airs 16 years after this story. The Highlanders is unfortunately a missing episode. All four parts are missing, but however, minimal clips survive and they're telesnaps for the story. Okay, so the plot of The Highlanders is as follows. The time travelers arrive in Scotland just after the Battle of Culloden. The second Doctor gains the trust of a small band of fleeing Jacobites by offering to tend to their wounded laird, Colin McLaren. While Polly and the laird's daughter Kirsty are away fetching water, he and the others are captured by Redcoat troops commanded by Lieutenant Algernon Finch. The Highlanders is a story that's not well received by the Doctor Who fandom, but I really love the story. It's extremely fun to watch, even though there has a few flaws in it. You can tell that some effort was put into the production of The Highlanders. The script was alright, it dealt with the aftermath of the Battle of Culloden, as well as the British wanting to put the Scots into slavery. That's a topic that was well decently handled. The direction was alright, the costumes are good, and I like the Redcoat's outfit, and I really like the location filming they put into this episode. The acting was fairly good in this story. Charlton, I definitely feel that he's starting to settle as a doctor here, and he's a lot more hands-on, and he does actually do a lot. He disguises himself as an old washerwoman, and later a redcoat, and he pretends to be a German doctor at sometimes. And this is one of the reasons why I like how Charlton was able to do a lot of stuff in this story. I mean, if this was a William Hartnell story, he wouldn't have done so much. He probably would have ended up on the Annabelle or just with Polly and Kirsty. Speaking of which, Ben and Polly were alright in this story. They don't do as much, but they contribute somewhat to the story. They do some impressive things. For example, I liked how Ben, when he was being ducked from the Annabelle, he was able to flex his muscles while being tied up and swim into safety, and how he explained it to Polly and Kirsty after the Doctor rescued him. And Polly, I liked how she tricked the Redcoat Finch into escaping with Kirsty, and how she was able to get Finch on his side and their side. That was pretty cool. The villains were Solicitor Grey and Captain Trask. They were the masterminds behind most of the conflict of this story. They were alright villains, but not as memorable as the other villains we've seen in the past, especially in pure historical stories such as Tloxo from the Aztecs. I think he's probably the best historical villain in Doctor Who but Solicitor Grey and Captain Trask, they were alright, even though Solicitor Grey, I read somewhere that he actually does exist, who he did exist back then, so he is a historical figure that actually appears in this story. I'm not sure about Trask, but Solicitor Grey, yeah, he's definitely a real person. Normally, there would be a side character that would stand out for me, but they weren't really memorable. Finch was okay, but I do wish he did more. I mean, he does help Polly and Kirsty in some parts and assists in the arrests of Grey, but he wasn't that bad at all. But I still wish he did more though. Now, this story is known for being the first appearance of Jamie McCrimmon, who is one of my favourite companions in Doctor Who. He doesn't do a whole lot that wouldn't be worthy of joining the TARDIS in certain standards, but he does impress here. I mean, he does join the TARDIS crew in the very last minute, because I remember Fraser Hines was saying somewhere that he was a last minute entry and they already filmed the scenes that Jamie and Kirsty were saying goodbye to the Doctor and Ben and Polly, and then Inner Slow, the producer at the time, came up to him and said, "How do you feel like joining the TARDIS crew?" And then Jamie accepted, even though they already filmed the scenes, so they pretty much had to reshoot it with the Doctor, Ben, Jamie, and Polly entering the TARDIS. Even though that scene is missing, but he does explain what happens, and I think Jamie is a very good addition to the TARDIS crew. I mean, he gets some very good character development on the way, considering the fact he's from the 1700s and he's exposed to all this futuristic space stuff which he has no idea of, but he does. But as the journeys continue, he does get a somewhat of an understanding of what's going on around him, and even though he doesn't really fully understand, he can see what is right and what is wrong. He will definitely speak out about what is wrong. And he definitely does do that in future stories, especially in Evil of the Daleks, and that was pretty cool. But when I get to Evil of the Daleks, I'll explain that a bit more in detail. But Jamie, he definitely has a good introduction here, and he will remain in the TARDIS until the very end of the Charlton era, which is in the War Games. So, as I mentioned before a few moments ago, Jamie is due in for very interesting character development and some very good stories as well. And I definitely like the chemistry that he and Charlton definitely had. It wasn't shown here, but it definitely probably will show in the Faceless ones and other stories as well, because it was a very plot heavy story and Jamie was like pretty much there for the most of it. Now on to the things that kind of deterred me in this story. As much as I'd really like the Highlanders, I did find the plot to be a bit slow. But to be honest, most historicals actually suffer from this because of the lack of sci-fi elements they usually have, other than the TARDIS being there. The side characters, I do wish they get some sort of character development of some kind, especially Kirsty. She was a good character, but by having her with Polly for most of the story, considering I didn't really do much of anything, it really didn't do her or Polly any justice whatsoever. Speaking of which, the episode one cliffhanger the, the cliffhanger episode one conclusion stuff. Let me start again. The episode one cliffhanger resolution was really weak. And we see Polly fall into an animal trap, and then someone is aiming a knife at her direction. Who was holding a knife? It was Kirsty, and then Polly was pretty much speaking to her just not too long ago before the cliffhanger, and that was just really weak and just badly explained in my opinion. But in my opinion, I still think the Highlanders is an underrated story, despite the flaws it would have if it was, let's say, if it was a six-parter or just had more characters or something like that. It would probably be like one of my all-time Doctor Who favorites. But I would give the Highlanders an 8 out of 10. The next review is The Underwater Menace, a story I'm not really too keen on for various reasons, but I'll get onto that soon. In other news, I'm planning to review the James Bond movies very soon, so keep an eye on that for that also. Thanks for watching this review. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you're new, and let me know what you thought of this story and this review. Until then, see you later.